everybody. Today I'm bringing you this layout that will be one of the very last layouts I scrapped from my nephew's wedding. And I've pulled a photo, and it's actually, well, one of the bridesmaids on the left and two of the groomspeople on the right, because my nephew actually had both women and men stand up for him because he has close friends that are both male and female. So I just thought this was kind of a cool picture, and it's a great picture of the three of them. Anyway, what I did is I pulled a piece of basil cardstock in white, and the color for this one is Avalanche. And then I pulled this sheet of vellum. It's from My Mind's Eye. It's the Christmas on Market Street collection, and the name of the vellum pattern is Shining Stars. And I just loved the dots of this. When I pulled out the folder of the pieces that I had, or the things that I'd pulled together for this album, I had this piece of diagonal stripe paper left. It's from Simple Stories. It's the Story of Us collection, and it's from the 12 by 12 paper pad. And I just knew I wanted to use it. I don't know why. I just love it. I also decided that I have the ribbon from the invitations that match the color of the dresses, and I haven't used a ton of it in this book. I like the ribbon, but I don't know. I didn't think of a lot of ways to use it. It's very thick, and that's, I think, part of what my issue was. So what I decided to do, because there's two of the bridesmaids in here, I decided I wanted to tie a bow with this. And I did that, obviously. What I'm doing here is I pulled another piece of the ribbon that was already pre-cut to kind of get the angles right on the ribbon. So I did that. I pre-tied the bow and did that. And I'm liking how this looks, but it's looking a little simple for me, although there are lots of very simple layouts in this album. But I wanted to do something more. And as I'm securing this ribbon, I'm thinking about that. What I did is I grabbed some of my large glue dots, and I'm putting them in the places where the ribbon ties so that it kind of holds it together so that it doesn't come untied. You know, there's a knot in there, but it's a fairly loose knot. So I thought that maybe those glue dots would help a little bit. So that's a little bit of a tip for you as well. So I'm going to play a little bit with how this goes, and you know, who can tie a perfect bow, and it's fine. And I'm trying to decide where I want that to go on the page. And I'm thinking really that bottom right corner, and that's where it's going to stay. I loved the gold in this because there's a lot of gold in this album. And I wanted to add some pieces, some die cuts or something to the right side where that bow is. And I wanted to add some more gold to pop that color up. There's gold on the background, but I wanted to see more. So I'm going through some things that I have. Those were tags from the Kaisercraft A Touch of Gold collection. And I pulled those large glitter hearts from Recollections, and I thought it was too big. And then I pulled these flare badges from the Amy Tangerine collection. I think it was her last collection, not Better Together, but the one before that. And that particular badge, flare badge, and it's really kind of like a gold mylar flare badge, says well done. And I thought that's kind of a good sentiment, considering that, you know, these are the bridesmaids and groomsmen here, or groomspeople, and they did do a great job of being supportive. So now I've pulled my bits and pieces from the Simple Story, the Story of Us collection itself, and I'm kind of looking to see if I can find any pieces that I like to go in that cluster on the bottom right surrounding the ribbon. And I'm going to go through quite a bit. You know, I think oftentimes when you see videos that we YouTubers produce, it seems like we have all the answers right away, especially if people pre-plan their pages quite a bit. And I do often choose my pattern papers, I'll be honest with you, before, just because I think that process can be a little bit tedious and a little bit time consuming with a lot of dead air in between. But I also do take some time where I actually show you those. So I kind of wanted to leave this in so you can see like some of my thoughts about what I go through and what I choose not to use. You know, I'm looking at some of these cuts from the Touch of Gold ephemera pieces and just not finding quite the right thing there. It just didn't feel like the golds were right. Like the gold in that was more of the color gold and everything else was more the bright gold of a metallic gold. Then I pulled my 3x4 and 4x6 journaling cards from the Story of Us collection from Simple Stories, and I thought perhaps I could get one of those cards behind it, but it just felt like it was too big of an addition. Now I do like this now that I'm looking at this. I really did think about this when I was playing with the papers about adding a card. I think is I'm going to actually use it and then reject it is what's going to happen in this particular case. So one of the things I needed to do in this case is I needed to really cut that card in half so I could see how it worked from side to side of the layout, because I thought it was too big to just put it on the right side. I wanted more on the left side. So I'm going to experiment a little bit with this card, cutting it down and things like this, and I'm not going to end up using it. But as I said, I think sometimes you need to see our real processes. Otherwise, you think that we just have all the answers automatically, and we don't. We edit them often. You know, we want you to see the processes, but not so much that you become bored with them. So I am thinking about now using this instead of from side to side on the top and bottom, but I'm not liking it. It feels unbalanced, and I'm very glad I didn't do that because I think it did look unbalanced when I'm looking at it in my video screen here. So now I went to grab a doily, and I thought maybe the doily would be a good thing to anchor the bows, but I decided not to do the purple because remember I was interested in using some more gold in this layout, and I grabbed these Studio Calico doilies, and they're gold, and there's both 4 and 6-inch doilies there. So I'm really liking that, liking the gold it gives me, and it's the shiny metallic gold from the background of the vellum. And so I'm kind of looking at that again. And I'm not sure you're seeing this, but for some reason my video was freezing, so I'm not sure what that was about, but it seems to have cured itself. Anyway, so I'm thinking now about, you know, I pulled a doily that had already been chopped like partially in half, just kind of playing with placement here. And now that I'm doing this, I kind of like that all in that bottom right corner. I like how that highlights everything. And again, it brings in the gold from the background paper. There we go. What I'm doing there is I was just gluing the photo down a little bit more because it was shifting a bit on me. And you'll see that when I did that, I didn't glue it completely straight. So I'm going to have to play with that a little bit. So again, just playing those elements, and I think this is the last of my 4-inch doilies here, so I don't want to, quote, waste half of it, so I'm going to cut that in half so that I could use it on this layout and still have a little bit more left for something else. Although I do tend to do doilies in 2, so with only 1 that might be a challenge, but that's okay, I'm up for it. And now you see where I realize, okay, that's uneven. And I need to glue it back a little bit. And what ends up happening as I'm taking that off, or as I'm trying to pull that off, I rip the paper. And I'm like, oh my gosh, now what am I going to do? Because it was cut to the perfect like measurement there. And I wasn't quite sure what I was going to do. So I went back to the 12x12 paper pad again. That other one was a piece of a scrap, and I do have the paper there. I love that little heart border. I've used that in this album already. And I'm going to chop it up so that I can have a piece of it. I have a thing for diagonal stripe papers, as I know a lot of us do, but I really love a good black and white diagonal stripe. I think they make great layers. They make great mats for 12x12 pieces of paper, so you can just keep a little bit of that diagonal hanging out. So Anyway, all right, so now I'm trying to be a little bit more careful when I put this down this time so that it's not so uneven. And you're going to laugh because I'm having a problem with this, which is really funny because it shouldn't have been that big of a deal. There's a straight line of polka dots there. And I'm looking at that, getting that very, very even, trying to get it centered and layered there. I'm just thinking about putting some pieces down here, getting that the doilies were sitting a little bit too low for my liking with how the ribbon looked there. And what I discovered is I'd cut that a little bit unevenly. And you see there's my two scissors. I do actually have a fabric scissors and a paper scissors. Actually, I have two paper scissors and a fabric scissors because I want actual fabric scissors when I'm cutting ribbon and those kinds of things. So now I'm pretty satisfied with the way this all looks. And I'm going to glue that ribbon down. And I will tell you that something very unexpected is going to kind of happen in just a minute with this at the very end. Okay, I like how that looks. And I decide, okay, I'm ready to glue this down. And I'm thinking I'm pretty much done with the layout as it is. So I'm going to line that up with the edges of the background paper because obviously I put the glue on the background there where that all works. And then all of a sudden I thought, you know, this would be really nicely grounded if I grabbed a thin strip of that diagonal paper off the top. And that's what I do, is I chop this up. Now what ends up happening is I decide that's a little bit too thin. So what I'm doing right now is recutting it. But that's, you know, it's one of those things that I went through this whole layout not thinking I needed that border strip at the bottom, but it works great as I'm looking at it. So I am just about done with this. I'm just going to get this on and then I will actually be done with the layout. So stay tuned here. I've got a still shot of the entire layout and a little piece of the layout as well too. Hope you're well. Talk to you soon. Bye.